Welcome back here on the First Team. I am Joe DeLeone. Joining me, as always, former NFL and college QB Matt Sims, founder of the Sims Complete QB and also the host of Sims Complete on the Believe Network. With us as well, Ryan Roberts, NFL draft analyst and Irish Breakdown recruiting analyst covering Notre Dame football. Today, we have our Week 10 top performers, 2 running backs, a very talented quarterback that has been improving over the past few weeks. I am, of course, talking about Carson Beck from Georgia. We're also going to get to Phil Mafah from Clemson and Kyle Monongai from Rutgers. Of course, we got to get a New Jersey guy in there if we can. Woo! Guys, I want to start us off here with Carson Beck, who early on in the season, I think a lot of people jumped to a ton of early conclusions with a new offensive coordinator, a new faces in this offense as this Georgia team was trying to figure out their identity. Carson Beck wasn't playing bad, but statistically wasn't necessarily lighting it up. And every week, he's not somebody like Michael Penix that's throwing for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's not throwing up crazy stats like Jaden Daniels because that's not how this offense plays. But when they need him to make big plays, Carson Beck has been phenomenal, and he has looked better and better each week for a player in his first starting season. And against Missouri, he went 21 for 32 for 254 yards and 2 touchdowns. Matt, as our obvious resident quarterback expert, I want to throw it to you first here, talking about Carson Beck, because I was excited when you recommended him and wanted to talk about him on today's show. What have you seen from Beck so far?
Well, the first thing that I want to really mention and focus on is how is it possible that a quarterback can get better when his best weapon on offense is taken away from him? And that's what's really cool. And that's why I want to focus on just Carson Beck in that regard, because since we have lost Brock Bowers in that starting lineup, he has done nothing but done a great job of making good decisions consistently, throwing the football aggressively and accurately down the field, and making a lot of plays in their vertical pass game without their best threat. And I think that it just goes to the credit of the entire culture there at Georgia. This was a team that I, myself, along with so many others, was just continuously hating on. One, because we were tired of hearing about them. But as Carson Beck continues to improve at the position, which has been astronomical, he might be one of the most improved college football players in the NCAA right now, as far as from week 1 till now. I think Georgia really is capable of a three-peat because of his performance. He's getting better at moving in the pocket. He's getting better at just having a generalized feel of the situation that they're in, particularly on offense and third down situations. And he's slowly but surely, I feel like, starting to use his athleticism to his advantage too, which is something that early on in the year, it seemed like he was so stuck on just going like 1 to 2 and then he'd get sacked. Now he's playing a little bit more freely. You could see that he's trusting his instincts more, and you can't deny it. This dude has one of the more talented arms in all of college football. So right now, Carson Beck, if Dabo Swinney in the Clemson Tigers stock is trending up, Carson Beck is way up there in that regard. So just I thought that this young man has done a great job of improving right before our eyes each and every week in the SEC.
Quick shout out, Joe, because Matt made a great point. Losing Brock Bowers is a massive loss for the Georgia offense for the short term. One massive help to them, though, offensively, is getting Ladd McConkey back, who's one of the more underrated wide receivers in college football. I hate that so many people get
also mischaracterized, by the way. A lot of people mischaracterize his play style.
I was actually about to say that I feel like people see this 5'11" white receiver and they initially go to the Danny Amendolas of the world, right? The Wes Welkers of the world. This guy's got to be just your premier slot receiver who just wins in tight spaces and is a tough, gritty football player. But in actuality, my guy's probably going to run in the 4.3s at the combine when that happens, and he can run, man. He's an outside receiver who can be used all over the place, and he's been a big bump and big help to an offense that needed some dynamic ability after Brock Bowers was injured, obviously. And I think that this is a great thing. Matt, I kind of compare it a little bit to what we're seeing with Jalen Hurts in with the Eagles offense right now, with you were able to lean on the run game so heavily early on and even earlier this season, and then he gets injured. And he had to change his game a little bit, right? As far as winning more consistently from in the pocket. You're not able to do the same things outside of structure that you once were, so you have to be able to play better and more efficiently inside of structure. And we've seen Jalen Hurts over the last couple weeks with a lack of a run game really flourish from inside the pocket. And I feel like we're getting a similar thing with Carson Beck right now, as far as you can't just lean on your top 5 to 10 overall pick in Brock Bowers, an absolute freak. You have to be able to spread the football around a little bit more. More is going to be on your back, on your plates, as far as your ability to facilitate and to push the ball vertically and to really distribute to different avenues. So I think that we've seen Carson Beck now take a step up, a huge notch, as far as being the guy that is the driving force behind this offense. And the great thing is that Brock Bowers is expected back at the end of the season too. So if we're getting a Carson Beck playing at a high level, Ladd McConkey healthy, and Brock Bowers coming back, this passing offense has a chance to be something special down the stretch when they're probably going to need it most.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's what we want and expect from everyone right now at this time period in the season is we want you to be, gaining that steam, right? You want to be the hot team late in the year. And right now, I don't know if there's a hotter football team than Georgia. I mean, their performance against Missouri as a whole team, we had questions about their defense. We had questions about the offense of Carson Beck. I mean, that was one of the more impressive wins of the weekend as far as how they handled that Missouri team that has really done a great job of scoring a lot of points. Their quarterback has done a great job of managing football games consistently. Defense showed up. Carson Beck did a great job protecting the football, making great decisions, aggressive throws down the field. And you're absolutely right. Ladd McConkey is one of those players that just does not get as much credit as he probably deserves.
I also want to add in there, I feel like we spent a lot of the offseason hyping up the expectations for J.J. McCarthy, with Drew Allar, with Cade Klubnik. And here we are, Carson Beck, I feel like wasn't even talked about that much. It was just a foregone conclusion that he was going to take over this job. And we were so focused on the defensive performances that Carson Beck, the way that he has improved on a week-to-week basis, has gone uncovered. And I think that right now Beck deserves to be in that conversation by the end of the year. If Stetson Bennett can find his way to the Heisman ceremony, I could certainly see a world where Carson Beck does end up there as well.
Not this year, but he's setting himself up though for that campaign for next year. That's definite.
One thing I want to add as well, though, I know that he's eligible for the 2024 NFL draft, and I think that there's a possibility with the way that the traits that he's expressed that he could go highly within the top 50 picks or so.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is just purely off of assumption. I think realistically he's somebody who goes back, though. I feel like he just makes sense in that Georgia program. There's just too many quarterback names in this class that he would probably benefit next year being the year that he enters.
Yeah, it's
very talented quarterback. He needs more repetitions for sure.
Yeah, and I think the track record of 1 year starting quarterbacks in college football transitioning to the NFL is not very good. I mean, you think about the Mark Sanchez's of the world, you think about the Mitch Trubisky's of the world. Like, there's been a long list of guys with 1 year of starting experience that doesn't translate very well because experience matters so much, especially at that position. Being able to retain information and be able to be the face of a franchise. Like, experience is a big help, obviously, in that transition. And I think that you hit on a key thing, Joe, is that there's no need to make that jump this year. This is a very deep quarterback class. Yes, we hyper focus on Caleb Williams and Drake May, but there's a lot of names now potentially in this class. The Jaden Daniels of the world, the Michael Penixes of the world, the Bo Nixes of the world, the Michael Pratts of the world, and kind of working all the way down to a Cameron Ward, maybe that declares for Washington State. I mean, there is a deep pool of quarterbacks this year, first year starting quarterback. When you kind of put all that stuff together, I don't think it makes sense for Carson Beck to leave early. If he goes back and has a big year, though, maybe he's in the conversation as the top 3 quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft. I think he has that potential upside to him.
Now, getting to our first running back is one that scarred Ryan and I this weekend, talking about Phil Mafah from Clemson, who ran all over them, 36 carries, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns. He alone managed to motivate me to turn off the TV very early on in the second quarter. Did not watch the rest of this game because of the way that Phil Mafah played. I will say, though, my big thing with him, it's really interesting knowing that we're so focused on Will Shipley, and everyone talks very highly of Will Shipley. He's a good running back, but Phil Mafah might be more talented than him. And Phil Mafah in the upcoming draft, not this year, 2024, but 2025, could be a big name that's brought up in those top 150 picks. Ryan, I want to go to you first here because
Yeah.
you were excited to talk about Mafah. What drew your attention with him?
Well, first of all, you're not a real fan if you turn the game off in the second quarter. You're not a true
No,
fan.
my mental health needed me to turn that game off. I was
Man,
not going to sit through
it's the year 2023. Mental health is very overrated. Let's be honest with ourselves. Obviously kidding there. Phil Mafah, and I wouldn't even turn my cheek to say the 2024 NFL draft because he is a third-year running back now. So you might take the steam and the momentum into the offseason and maybe declare for the NFL draft. I mean, there's still some questions as far as carrying the load consistently, and his ball security is a little bit of an issue. I think he has 4 fumbles on the year, so that's a couple of things that needed to be cleaned up, obviously. I mean, he fumbled twice in the Notre Dame game that we don't talk about because it didn't end up hurting them, but there is a whole lot to like Phil Mafah. I mean, he's 6'1", 230 pounds, and he is just a bull of a running back, man. I said this on the preview show before the Clemson Notre Dame game on the Irish Breakdown channel that I was terrified of Phil Mafah coming into that football game. And unfortunately, I was found to be correct because he is a tough kid to corral, man. He is physical, came into the game averaging over 6 yards a carry on the season. I mean, he had been a very productive running back for Clemson in the touches that he was getting. And he's a guy that we need to start talking about, kind of moving forward here. And Clemson, I believe, is set to get Will Shipley back from he was in obviously in concussion protocol. And if they get him back and they gain some momentum from what they did against Notre Dame down the stretch, like, hey man, they might only end up being 8-4 type of football team ultimately when all is said and done, but they could be a dangerous football team in the sense that they could beat a couple people that maybe they shouldn't. Maybe you get into a bowl game and you beat a team that you shouldn't beat necessarily on paper because they have a running game that can get going and can get working. Phil Mafah, unfortunately, set the tone early on in that Notre Dame football game. Notre Dame had a rally. They were in contention in the end, but Phil Mafah was the driving force to why that lead happened in the first place. It certainly wasn't Cade Klubnik in that vaunted passing attack for the Clemson Tigers.
Make sure you check out Bet Online for all of your sports betting needs. For anything that I do betting related, I go on over to betonline.ag and I use promo code BELIEVE50. BetOnline has all of the latest updated odds for the NFL and college football seasons. Anything you need, whether it's futures, live in-game betting, no matter what, your football betting needs are met at BetOnline. And again, make sure you use that promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV50 to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.
Phil Mafah to me has all the makings and all the attributes that you want to see in an NFL running back. He's got the size, he's got the speed. You can see that he's very comfortable with reading the offensive line and making sharp, aggressive cuts. And then his really, to me, for his size, to have that home run capability is something you don't see very often. And unlike Carson Beck in the quarterback position, where you could say, yeah, hey, go back, learn, get more experience, get better. If you're a running back and you get a good grade and you look like you can go a little bit higher up than you originally thought in the draft, you got to go, because it's not like you're going to get better in your 30s and late in your 30s as a running back. Look at Ezekiel Elliott and how good he was. The best years of him being an NFL running back were his first 3 years in the NFL. And the same thing probably for a guy like Mafah, who's a big, strong dude too. He's not getting any smaller. He's not going to get faster when he gets into the NFL. So what I'm impressed though with him, the physicality of his running was really something to marvel at. And I think we both really all of us, got a great, view of why the NFL doesn't pay running backs. Because Audric Estime is an NFL running back to me. That was so fun watching him play, even though it seemed like it kind of slowed down as the game went along. But Phil Mafah, he's an NFL running back to me too. And with the right organization, he would be a great 1-2 punch right now. Imagine Mafah right now on the Dallas Cowboys with Tony Pollard.
Ooh.
I mean, that's like the kind of piece that they're missing, is a physical guy that can get downhill like that, but still has that game-breaking speed. I don't know how he is in pass protection. Brian would know more about those things.
He's good.
But
yeah,
he's got a lot of things to like. I would love to see Clemson take more advantage of running backs like him in the screen game and to be creative with getting him the ball in space that way. But the running capability to me is very impressive. And I definitely got my eyes on this dude for the rest of his career at Clemson.
Yeah, and we'll see obviously how long that lasts. Because again, would I be shocked if Phil Mafah said, I'm a third-year player, I'm the bell cow down the stretch here. If I take my shot at the NFL, it's fantastic because we talked about the quarterback position where experience matters so much. It actually kind of hurts you at running back. You don't want a guy that has a ton of tread on the tires. You don't want a guy that's been around the block a ton. You want a guy that maybe had limited carries in college, but is very talented and then goes in the NFL and he has a little bit more of because the average NFL career is only a little over 3 years and it's even less for a running back, right? So you want to be able to extend that window as much as possible. And it might be a good decision to potentially answer because he could say, hey, I was a very productive running back when I got opportunities. I was the bell cow down the stretch, but I also shared the ball with another dude. So there's limited tracks on the tread on these tires right now. I think Mafah has an interesting conversation to have after the season.
And he's got to be careful too, because if I'm the head coach of like a team like Colorado, hey, Phil, how you doing? Come on over with us and run for the ball for my son Shador here,
That's a good point. He could be a portal target. You never know, and I'm sure that there will be a way for him to get tampered somewhere as well. But
tampering doesn't happen, man. That's illegal. Come on, what are we talking about?
Yeah. Ha ha! Very, very, very funny. Last guy that we have, completely different build, but runs so freaking hard. From New Jersey, plays for the University of New Jersey, Rutgers. Kyle Monongai. Rutgers running back this past week against one of the best rushing defenses in college football, 24 carries, 159 yards. He's been doing this all season long. Nobody that's been paying attention to Rutgers knows who Kyle Monongai is. I knew who Kyle Monongai was because I've been paying attention to Rutgers, and I've been watching this 5'9" ball of muscle run through people. I love watching this kid play. I love the mentality that he brings to the position. All three of us as New Jersey guys, it's easy to appreciate someone like this. Matt, I want to go to you first here. What do you think of Kyle Monongai and what he's done so far this season?
So Kyle Monongai for me, cool story. I'm gonna pretend to be Ryan here for a second with my stories.
The Ryan outfit on.
That's right. Yeah, put the hat on backwards, ready to go. Right, but what's really cool for me is that I've been able to watch Kyle Monongai since his days at Don Bosco. Being a former graduate of Don Bosco, I go to games, occasionally and see, my school play, and was always impressed with Kyle Monongai and his ability to play. He was the heart and soul of that football team while he was there. Always underappreciated because he didn't have quite that game-breaking speed, that everyone looks for at the running back position. He wasn't a big enough presence, for the Division I offers. And I can't lie, I was complaining on my radio show with ESPN New York there with Mike Quick every Saturday morning saying, Rutgers, offer this dude, because he is the epitome of just Greg Schiano. He's a hardworking guy. He's disciplined. He doesn't care about the attention. He loves the game of football. He loves going to work with his teammates. He has great dance moves if you've ever seen him on social media. But the coolest thing about him, though, too, is that I know this for a fact. He's one of the best pass protecting running backs in the country right now. And to me, that is something that is always of high value to NFL rosters going forward. This is a guy that I know would give you everything he's got on special teams. He's got enough to do the stuff that you're asking him to do at the running back position, running the football. He's physical. He is almost a reincarnation for Rutgers as an Isaiah Pacheco is. Does a little of everything with just his heart and soul with every carry, and then protects the quarterback when asked to with just the utmost bravery and perfect technique. So Kyle Monongai, just so happy to see his progression of his career, because as a former Don Bosco alum, he just is the epitome of what our state is about, what my high school was about, our high school was about, and what Rutgers and Greg Schiano are trying to do with the chop mentality. So just really happy to see his success at the next level.
Yeah, quick shout out to of course, to what Greg Schiano is doing again at Rutgers, because the first time was incredible. I mean, you talk about the Ray Rice, Mike Teal, Brian Leonard years, the Eric Fosters of the world on the defensive side of the football, the McCourty brothers. Like, it was fantastic times in Rutgers football. And then honestly, the Chris Ash eras of Rutgers football looked like the absolute worst that Rutgers could be. And there was a time where you were wondering, can they ever even be competitive in the Big Ten, let alone actually make some waves in the Big Ten? And fortunately, Greg Schiano, after laying the foundation a couple years now, is really starting to turn the tide there. Now sitting at 6-3 and actually being competitive in just about every football game so far. I mean, they were hung tough against Ohio State for a long time. They hung tough against Michigan for a half. I mean, they've been playing very quality football, which is great. Joe, you say you've been paying attention to Kyle Monongai, right? You've been paying attention to him. You know who's been paying more attention to him? RPM data that we consult for literally had recommended him before this season started. Before the season had even started, he had been on the table. He had been recommended to agents before the season even started, and he has made us look very, very good because that baseline that Matt talked about is incredible. He can catch the football. He's very dependable, hard runner, but the pass blocking is tremendous. I would be willing to say, and I'll even go a step further than Matt. Matt said he's one of the best pass blocking running backs in college football. I would say that he is the best pass blocking running back in all of college football, man. He is dominant in that area, which is why he's going to last in the NFL for probably 5 to 7 years because he does the dirty work.
Just to kind of round out this point, love watching Monongai. I was enamored by the way that he played against Northwestern, and he's had a good career, but this season he really exploded onto the map with the way that they played in that first game, just completely dominating Northwestern the way that they did. I also want to throw out there to Schiano, as you're talking about this progression for the team, what has worked so well in the first time him as the head coach, and then now the second time around, that seemingly every coach in between just thought that they didn't need to do, which is recruiting the state of New Jersey. The state of New Jersey produces a lot of really good football recruits, a lot of high 3-stars, sometimes low 4-star kids that if you keep them within the area, guys in Philly, guys in New York, if you keep them in that tri-state area, there is no other school that you should be competing with in that area. And it's a hotbed for talent that's just not talked about enough. So I give a lot of credit to what you guys are saying with Schiano, who's just doing a phenomenal job of keeping those guys in the region and knowing that there is an underrated grouping of talent.
I agree. I agree with the New Jersey conversation. A lot of great talent that comes out of New Jersey, except for the 2016 recruiting class. Like nobody came out of that recruiting class. Not a single player.
Why do you remember? Oh, you're talking about because of me?
I just looked it up, and you were a 2016 guy, right?
Screw you. We actually I had a teammate from Don Bosco from the 2016 class at Rhode Island, and he's in the CFL right now. Will Mack.
Nice.
LB Mack.
Yeah.
Oh, is LB playing in the CFL player now? Oh man, that's good for him. He had so many
injuries.
He
was in the CFL. Yeah, he was in the CFL, and then he's kind of bounced around. He had a neck injury. We thought he was completely done.
I'm surprised that young man's not a cyborg at this point, man. I'm proud that he isn't just all metal at this point. So good for him.
To wrap, we got a minute left to wrap us. Ryan, you wanted to give a quick shout out to Jason Henderson, his performance this past weekend, the Old Dominion linebacker.
Once upon a time, I'm just kidding. Jason Henderson, 2 straight years now.
I was about to cut you off.
2 straight years now. Quietly led all of college football in total tackles in 2022 with over 180, 10 tackles for loss. So far this year, over 140 tackles already in 9 football games and has 18 tackles for loss. So he has been a dynamic player, coming off a game where he had 22 tackles for loss and 22 tackles for loss, 22 total tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks against Coastal Carolina. My guy, number 42 for Old Dominion, the Monarchs, has been one of the absolute best linebackers in all of college football. We need to start giving more attention, folks, because yes, he's on the G5 level. He's not playing at the biggest program of all time, but he is ultra productive and he will play on Sundays. So yes, Jason Henderson, linebacker, Old Dominion.
Great stuff.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. At Joe DeLeone, at Sims Complete QB, at Rise and Draft. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below. Let us know what you think of the episode, and we'll be back with more.